When they say we want to recognize atypical families, we have to see which families are falling under which of these kinds of combinations.
It will help obviously because we'll have a legal framework to support and give the foundation to people of the same sex, because at the end of the day you need some rules and regulations legally to fall back upon, right? So I think that's important.
Definitely there will be a lot of help, not only with respect to the various categories of people. There was otherwise in a gender, which was in most of the government forms were only mentioned to be male and female. Now they have the third gender as well.
So I think it's a question of, again, which kind of queer people, where do they come from, what are they doing, etc. Than simply a broad umbrella term like queer.
Personally, being gay, it's been difficult, honestly speaking.
If you're in a government service, your maternity benefit under Rule 43 of the CCS rules only restricts you to 2 children. Now 43 also implies, 43C implies for childcare, but there's also 43 which implies for maternity leave. Both talk about the same thing, but Supreme Court now says maternity leave will be treated separate. Here in this case, she already had 2 children who were the husband's children from the first wife. When she conceives for the first time, she cannot be deprived of that maternity leave. She actually needs it. But the courts below felt that only because they are bound by the technicalities of law, they could not give them that justice. Supreme Court said, nothing doing. You differentiate between the childcare leaves and the maternity leave, which in this case was an exception given the exceptional situation.
The judgment has a part where it recognizes various kinds of family formations, but on the other hand, it also Deepika gets her rights also because she happens to be the natural mother to the third child, right? And so there is a kind of simultaneity and contradiction. So the family is a unit that exists both in this kind of realm of the natural and the social, but also in the realm of what is private and what is criminal. And so when they say we want to recognize atypical families, we have to see which families are falling under which of these kinds of combinations.
First of all, it's a very big step by the Supreme Court judiciary of our country, and I think it's finally things are moving in the right direction. Slow and steady, but gradually it is. It's very important we have a framework. So I think it will help, obviously, because we'll have a legal framework to support and give the foundation to people of the same sex, because at the end of the day you need some rules and regulations legally to fall back upon, right? So I think that's important.
I think the bit would be that those relationships that can prove, that can cover this thing called the natural, will of course be easier to gain recognition than say other atypical formations. So say for example, the atypical formation of a single mother would be slightly better off than say a household in which there are only friends living together, right? Because the claims there are difficult to prove in terms of lineage or property and so on and so forth. So I think again, like what we will see is constantly some families will be able to make that claim better if they are respectable, if there is property, if there is relationships of blood and kinship, and some families will not be able to make those claims. But we must also know that some people are not interested in making those claims. Not everyone wants to be recognized as a family.
I am all for it, and I have full faith that yes, it will bring about the change we are looking for, because at the end of the day, be it whichever gender, you want a family, you want to be together, and you want to have legal rights for it, right? Yeah, that's what my opinion is. But having said that, I personally feel there's a lot of work to be done. This is just the start. It is not even the tip of the iceberg. We're just scratching the surface.
When the trans bill came out, that not that everyone is now being fit into this category called trans, right? But there are various communities that have various names for themselves, and various people have various names for their identity. So I think it's another kind of double thing where you have to recognize that even as the broadening of the word family might include these things, those who have an easier time calling themselves family will be included. But what happens to the rights of various other kinds of people? So, for example, single people are not going to disappear from the world. And what is the kind of care single people can ask? It's not going to come from children, they don't have them. It's not going to come from a partner, they don't have them. But does that mean that the state is supposed to not look after single people? So those kinds of things I think are important.
People are actually expanding their knowledge and acceptance of different types of relationship, because after COVID I think the world has changed. The problems and the source of problems and the focus has changed for life. People want peace, people want satisfaction, people want to reach that actualization in life, right? So rights and the importance of just doing you, just being who you are has really come up.
So I think yes, some queer people must have found it easier after the judgment came out, but I don't think that's true for a large majority of the queer community, especially because, say, working class trans people are still doing sex work and begging, right? They're not going to be looking for housing in these parts. They're living in bastis. These bastis have no state infrastructure. Everything is constructed and created by these people.
While I think it is really going to help, but personally, being gay, it's been difficult, honestly speaking. Not that I am looking to settle or anything, but I don't know if there's something. These are just talks that are available in the air, right? There is no legal framework to fall back upon. Even now, if you ask me if I can roam around freely with my SO, yes I can, but I have to be a little careful in the public spaces, because you don't know what upsets whom, right? And then what triggers what. You're scared for your life, right? So that is still there, and I don't know how, but I personally feel it starts at home. Legally, if the framework comes in, that's where it starts, because that will instill a certain level of fear in offenders who feel that they have the entitlement just because they think it's wrong, just because the thinking is contained. So yeah.
So I think it's a question of, again, which kind of queer people, where do they come from, what are they doing, etc. Then simply a broad umbrella term like queer, like how the judgment against 377 used it. That community is a fiction.
The old traditions that we've been following, it's mostly based on that you get married, you give birth to babies, and that's a family, right? But there are all different types of families these days, right? You have different types of relationships. I mean, it's not just one track mind anymore. You can have multiple partners, and you can have different families with different people, right?
And the final thing about the family that we must actually ask is that why our family is important.
With the development of the laws, with the development of the interpretation of social justice, definitely there will be a lot of help, not only with respect to the various categories of people. There was otherwise in a gender, which was in most of the government forms were only mentioned to be male and female. Now they have the third gender as well.
Huge country. We are a beautiful country. We have a lot of variations and cultures, and every culture has its own internal language and rules and regulations. But at the end of the day, I personally feel whatever makes sense to whoever, right? They should follow that. Just that, don't violate rules in terms of anyone's personal safety, personal security, and mental health. I think majorly it's about respecting the personal space and mental health of other people. As long as that is instated, I think people will fall in place, right? Because people who are of the way, people actually who understand the way I'm talking right now will actually be related, they will relate to me. And people who don't might just think I'm just somebody who's trying to provoke someone's emotion, but while I'm not, I'm just speaking my truth. And I expect you to respect my truth. That is all.